Hello everyone. A very good evening to all of you. I welcome you all to this session on roadmap to becoming a full stack developer in 2022. My name is Shantanu Rana and I will be your host for this session today. As you all know, full stack development is among the most in demand job roles in 2022. Getting into this role as a fresher or switching from a different role can sometimes be confusing or difficult for learners. In this session, we will discuss about a definite path the learners can take to have a successful career in full stack development. This session will be beneficial for both working professionals as well as freshers. Also, if you have any questions throughout the session, please feel free to use the chat box. Whatever queries you have, please put it in the chat box and the speaker of the session will answer all your relevant queries. Now, talking about the speaker as well, I am very pleased to welcome Mr. Vishwa Mohan for today's session. He has over 10 years of work experience working with multiple MNCs and is currently working at LinkedIn. So please welcome Mr. Vishwa Mohan. Over to you, sir.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for the warm welcome. I hope I'm audible, everyone. Can you guys say yes or a hi in the chat section so that I know that you guys can hear me clear and loud, people? Cool. So I think you guys can hear me. So before I get started, let me take this an opportunity to quickly introduce myself. So hello, everyone. I am Vishwa Mohan, and I have close to around 10 plus years of experience working in this IT sector. I'm a pass out from IT BHU. And during this last 10 years of journey, sir, I have been part of the companies like Oracle, PayPal, Walmart Labs, Amazon, and I currently work as an architect for the LinkedIn. So all these last 10 years, I have been actually the both side of the tables. From one side where I have been actually trying to make it big in the industry, learn about the different things, understand what it takes to be a part of all these big organizations. And also, I have been other side of the table where I have been, I think by now I would have taken like more than 100 of students interview for these big set of companies. And not only that, I also kind of teach at almost all the big pillars right now you see in the world of tech educations. So as a part of this webinar, this session, next few minutes when I'm going to interact with you people, I would like to bring all the practical aspects that today in year 2022 or going ahead, if we have a dream of making it big in the IT industry as a full stack developer, what I need to do, right? So I'll try to take you through all the practical nuances of full stack development. First, we'll try to understand what is the full stack development, why it is so hot in the market, why everyone is talking about full stack development, and then the most important part, sir, ki तैयारी कैसे करें, how do we prepare for the full stack development, all those things I'm going to discuss today. So throughout this session, I'll keep an eye on this YouTube, the streaming channel where we are, I'll keep an eye on the comment section, so you guys can feel free to keep writing your questions. And as and when I get chance, I'll try to make sure that I answer all your questions. So said that, are we all set to get started, people? Can you say yes or a hi in the comment section so that I know that you guys are there with me? Perfect. So let's start it. So in order to give the structure to our discussion, because there's a lot of things that has to be, I can talk about for hours. But in order to give the structure to this session, what I have done is I'll try to talk few things before we actually move to the full stack development. So we'll try to first of all understand what is a front end engineer, what he or she does, or what one needs to know to become a full, the front end engineer. Then we talk about backend engineers, who are they, what they do, what is the scope of theirs. And then I'll finally come to a full stack developer. What is the meaning of full stack developer? Why in the recent few years it has got so much of traction? Why every company is talking about full stack developers? And once we know what is the full stack development, then I would like to talk more on the job scenarios. We have just now seen COVID. Now the world is going to another state of recession, as everyone is talking about. So what is the prospect of job in year 2022 and the coming years for a full stack developers? And then finally, I think the most awaited thing, I think most of us would be interested in, that if today, agar main chahta hu to make it big in the industry, to become a good full stack developer engineer, what should I learn? From where should I learn? What all things that is needed for me to make it big, right? So we'll talk about those things and how to make it big in the full stack development. So these are the topics, sir, I'm going to talk about. Fair enough? So if I go and talk about the front end and the back end rules. So if you look around yourself today, sir, right? Uh, all of the things that you need today, there is a programmatic solution for it, right? Say, for example, if you're trying to buy items, we have Flipkart and Amazon.com. Let's say that you have to buy the groceries, you have Big Basket, right? Say, for example, you have to buy medicines, you have so many applications which can get you the medicines to your home. If you want to make friendship, you have a social media like Facebook, Instagram. Even dating these days sorted out, and you have Tinder for that. So point that I want to make here today is, for anything and everything these days, you will see there is some application available over the web. What do you call it, as a web application or mobile application? So most of the companies these days, if you look around in the market, who are hiring developers like crazy, they are actually focusing on the real world problems. One of the problems that directly or indirectly impacts you, right? So there's a very high chance that when you go and look for a job in these companies, what they will be doing, they will be creating some kind of web applications which impacts people like you and me directly or indirectly. Now, any web application, sir, if you go a little deep, कि web application को बनाते कैसे हैं, what is a web application? So if you go a little deep, sir, each web application, whether it's a Facebook, whether it's the Instagram there where you see a lot of reels, whether it's a LinkedIn, every web application are these days built in three different layers. The first layer is called as user interface. Say, for example, when you go and open a website or an application on your mobile phone, या फिर you take your laptop and add www.facebook.com or www.linkedin.com. So what the application that opens up with a visual appearance, with a visual appeal on your browser in your laptop or your mobile phone, that typically is called as a user interface or front end. So if that is there, there would be someone who would have built it, right? Say, for example, when I type www.facebook.com on the browser, I get Facebook where I see my photograph, I see the chat section, I see the feed of all my friends. How is it built? Who makes them? So the engineers, the developers who are responsible for building the visualization layer, building the UI, UX, they are called as front end engineers, people who dedicatedly put all their efforts and time and energy to build the visualization layers, user interface of any application. They are called as dedicated front end engineers. And normally how they do build, they use something you might would be already aware of, using HTML, CSS frameworks, and a lot of JavaScript, right? So any front end engineers who these days today, if they have to create a complex UI, they do make use of a lot of JavaScript and JavaScript frameworks like React and Angular, right? So that's what the meaning of a user interface layer or a front end engineer. So who is a front end engineer? Someone who is a little artistic bend of mind, who is someone who builds a visualization layer using what? HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and its related ecosystem, including React, which is very hot these days, Angular. So this is what the role of a front end engineer. I hope everyone is clear on this. Is everyone clear on this front end roles, people? Can you say yes, no in the chat so that I know that you guys are along with me? Great. So once that is done, the next part is, so we all have seen the front end, right? We have seen the visual layer, visualization, right? But what is that which powers a front end, right? Say, for example, when you open your Facebook, you see your friends in the chat section. You see them online or offline. You see a continuous feed of data. You see the image, right? What is that which is powering the front end? Who is powering the front end? So there has to be some system who supplies that data. That's the role of a backend. I call backend as a brain of the system, because backend is a layer which is responsible for crunching and munching of the data, writing the business logic, all the complex computation. Because front end or a UI is just a visualization layer, sir. What it does is just a visualization. But the data which is needed to represent there, the data which is needed to present there, right? That has to be provided by something called as a backend. So backend is a layer where you write the complex logic based on the business problem that you're trying to solve. You do the crunching and munching of the data, and that data is basically presented to the front end. So that's basically a role of a backend engineer. So as far as the backend is concerned, there are so many languages and the tech stack which is there in the market. One of the very popular and strong tech stack for the backend could be, say, like Java, and you use a framework like Spring. Another maybe like you are using Node.js and you're using Express framework. You might be using Python or Django. So actually, it doesn't matter which programming language or stack you are using, but the meaning of a backend is more or less same in almost every application. It helps you to power the data so that you can go and represent all the things which is needed on the user interface. Now, if I want to make it very real and give you a very realistic example, if I have to take a front end and I have to take a back end, you can think of like a restaurant, right? So in the restaurant, there are two areas, sir, right? One of the area is the sitting area. Now, sitting area is very beautiful. It will be decorated, it will be properly scented, because it is the place where your customer will come in and sit. So if they feel good, if they have a better feeling while they're sitting there, they will feel more comfortable. So you can consider the sitting area in a restaurant more of like a front end. But the actual quality of a restaurant lies in what? In the quality and the taste of the food which is being served to the customers. So you can consider the kitchen where the actual food is being served, which defines how a restaurant, you know, is, how the people are liking the restaurant is decided by actually the food which is being cooked in the kitchen. So you can think of kitchen like a backend. So both the sitting area and the kitchen is important, but the sitting area will make sense only if there's a good food being cooked inside the kitchen. So that's what the backend is. So I hope everyone is clear now that what is the front end and what is the backend, and who is a front end engineer and who is a backend engineer when it comes about web application development. Is everyone clear on this, people? Now, one of you have been asking me a question. I'll just pick up a question now. One of you have asked, what is better? Is Java better for a backend, or it's Node.js better for the backend? So, sir, every language has been built for some specific reason. So I'll be very succinctly, explaining here. Java, as you know, is a multi-threaded programming language. On the other hand, Node.js kya hai? Node.js is a runtime environment for JavaScript, and it's a single threaded language. So dono in principle are two different types of language. One is multi-threaded, another is single threaded. So when should I use Java? So normally, as a rule of thumb, right? If you have to build some application which is compute heavy computation, right? Those kind of application, multi-threaded language like Java could be a better choice. But let's say that you want to create an application which is more IO intensive. Say, for example, chat application, highly concurrent application. Compute intensive nahi hai, but you have to make a lot of network calls. You have to make a call and you have to keep on waiting, right? So if you have to build something like a chat server, chat applications, Node.js could be a better choice, because in that case, Using a single thread itself, less resources itself, you'll be able to create the similar scale of applications. So just saying which one is better, which one is bad might not be a right statement. You cannot put a blanket statement कि Java अच्छा है, Node.js खराब है या Node.js अच्छा है, Java खराब है. It all depends on the sir which kind of application that you're trying to build. I hope I answered your question. Now, if I talk about Python, let me take this question also because again, Python we see everywhere these days. Off late, all thanks to data science, machine learning courses, the Python has got the new, the excitement in the world of programmers. At the end of the day, sir, Python is a scripting language. I will give you an assignment after this session. You go back if you're already not aware of, find the difference between a scripting language and a compiled language. So when it comes about Python, just like JavaScript, it's a scripting language. And most of the time, if you compare a scripting language with a proper language, the runtime of a scripting language is always slow, comparatively slow. So Python is good when you have to build a small scale applications, when you have to do some kind of quick POCs. Python is good in the machine learning data science because the learning curve is pretty simple. It's very easy language to learn. But when it comes about highly scalable, complicated applications, normally I'll suggest that Python might not be the great choice for those kind of backends. Perfect, fair enough. Is everyone clear on this point, people? Can I move on? The third layer in any web application is the data access layer. Have you ever thought of the images that you go and put inside the Instagram or Facebook, even after 6 months, a year, you want to go and log in again and see they're still keeping sure that your images are kept right. They're not losing your images. They will not tell you कि आप 6 महीने से देखे नहीं हो तो मैं delete कर देता हूँ. It never happens. How is it possible? So any applications that you go and build, small application, big application, chotu application, very, very big applications, every application at the end of a day, they need to go and store data in some kind of stable storage. So every application, they need some kind of storage system, and that where we go and call is a database servers. So again, every application, every company that you go and work for, they will have a dedicated people who are experts in databases, managing databases, provisioning databases, running queries, optimizing it, monitoring it. These set of people who are specialized in databases, they are called as DBAs. And that also stands for the database administrators. So conventionally, if you look back, आज से 5-10 साल पहले, in any company for building applications, there were only 3 set of species. Who were those? One who builds the UI, they are called as the front-end engineers. Two who build the complex logic, server-side development, कौन है वो? Back-end engineers. And third, every application needs a database to store something in a stable format, and those are called as DBAs, stands for database administrators. This is what there has been in any company conventionally, from the time the application development has got started. Fair enough. Correct. Now, what has happened, sir, in the today's world? There's a new kind of requirement. And what is the reason of that requirement? If you see the market, if you try to study the market, most of the, not only in India, but across the world, there is something called as startup bubble, or, the startup war is going on. Especially in India, if you see every day a new startup is coming up. So many startup unicorns have took birth. Now, since most of the jobs which is there in the market right now is driven by the startup companies, the startup culture has resulted into the origination of a new type of job title. So if you look into any startup, sir, almost every startup definitely lacks in two things. What are those two things? One, they don't have time. Every startup is in a rat race, right? They are in the very quick iterations, एक के बाद एक नए features डालने हैं. Before your competition or your competitor can put up a new feature, you are in always in a race of bringing it first, always first in the race. That's what you always try to do. So the first thing which any startup lacks is time. They're always in a, in a hurry. And the second thing, being you are in a startup, right, you always have the lack of resources in terms of money, in terms of the people to work for. So one of the key requirement of any startup to do good is if they can have the flexible employees. They can have people who are very flexible to learn and do different things. So if the startup starts hiring the conventional front end folks, back end folks, since their requirement changes very rapidly, they have dynamic requirements, dynamic scenarios. A conventional front end or a back end engineers might not be able to do justice to the requirements of the startup culture. So because of this reason, these days startup people started looking for those people who can just do more than one thing. They would like to get those people who are aware of front end, they're aware of back end. If needed, they can also deal with the databases. And this new kind of person who knows everything from end to end software development, end to end web application development, these folks are called as full stack developers or full stack roles. So these are the person like you and me who knows almost anything, and they can contribute in any part of the life cycle of the development of the softwares for this. So these full stack roles, which are basically being ignited by these startups, now are getting a very distinct place in the market right now. Everyone, not only these days the startups, but because of the value that they bring to the table, even the big product based companies are also now starting having more roles and openings around the full stack development. So who is a full stack? As the name itself says, जिसको सब पता है, who knows front end, who knows back end, who knows database layer, everything, and you go and call it the full stack developer, and that's why he or she is in demand these days. Am I clear, people? Does it make sense? Is everyone clear what is the meaning of a full stack developer and why full stack developer is there? Why everyone is talking about the full stack developer? Perfect. So in between, I'll be looking back down into my phone for your messages or your questions. So so that I can pick up your question also when the while the chat is going on, right? Awesome. So let's move on. So again, repeating the question, why full stack is so much in demand, right? And why it is important for me to learn the full stack developer. Why in 2022, I'm telling you that if you are a budding engineer, either you are a fresher or if you're early in the career, one of the best thing that you could do to yourself is become a full stack developer. Why? There are multiple perspectives. From the perspective of the company, any company will try to hire you because you can fit in all kinds of role. Let's say the company hired you, at that time there was a requirement back end, but suddenly the front end engineer is leaving the company. They cannot hire immediately someone else. You can fill that gap. So if you're a full stack developer, you could be like, the so if you are a full stack developer, you can be helpful to any company in many ways, right? So first of all, you are an employer favorite if you are a full stack developer. That's number one. The number two is that at the end of a day, everybody talks about the passion, everybody talks about the work satisfaction. Are you satisfied with your work or not? Now when you work as a full stack developer, you always get to do different things. Sometimes you can work on the front end, sometimes you can work on back end, sometimes you can work on the data access layer. So the varieties of the work that is to offer, that you get to do as a full stack developer, is humongous. And because of which I feel that full stack role is one of the most satisfying role. It's one of the most developer appetizer role that one can think of. right? So from the perspective of the work satisfaction also, sir, the full stack engineers gets a lot of things to do, which can excite any person who have a tech, with a tech related brain. And last but not the least, sir, I very much know I will not be diplomatic here. All of us are here to earn more, right? हम सबको चाहिए कि एक BMW घर में आ जाए, right? We should earn this much that we should be able to afford BMW, right or wrong? Tell me, people, right? We all dream for a dream job with a dream salary, right? So that we don't have to think about next time we go to hit a pub, we don't have to think about the price of a drink, right? So one of the best thing about the full stack developer is that since you are doing a job of multiple people, the salaries are also in those range itself. Today I see people who's a full stack developer even earning more than 1 cr an year, which was a dream to earn few years from now, but that's the reality. So if you are a good full stack engineers, if you have all the skill that is needed to make and break anything in the market, you will be paid the best in the industry. Right? There is no upper limit. Today I don't see any upper limit. Every time I talk about salary, I see someone is earning more than that upper limit. So when you become a good full stack developer engineer, you don't have to worry about the finances. You don't have to worry about the money. And I believe that's also one of the very good inspiration for all of us to make it big in the industry. So I hope I have stressed enough that how becoming a full stack developer from every direction, from the perspective of getting the job, from the perspective of you being the favorite of the employers, from the perspective of your work satisfaction, and last but not the least, how much money you make it at the end of a day. I think full stack kind of does justice to all these points. Fair enough, people. Now I have a question. Bhupesh is asking, doing a MCA, can I become a full stack developer? Sir, one of the beautiful thing about the IT, and especially in the last few years, is we have actually stopped having biases based on the degrees and the qualifications. I believe IT is one sector which is open for everyone. They have a very open frame of mind. Only thing that is needed for you to be a part of this industry is a right attitude and the skill set that is needed to make and break the big applications. Just to give you, if that can give you a confidence, I know multiple people, including one in my team itself, who has a MCA background. Like he has done BCA and MCA, and then he's working today in Microsoft. Correct. So I believe MCA is actually a plus point for you, because I think using BCA and then MCA, I think you would have learned anything and everything that one needs to know to build applications. You would have good computers fundamentals. Now, only thing that is needed is that I'll be talking in the next few slides, that what is the prerequisite? What should I know? What should be I aware of? So to become a full stack developer, sir, you don't need to come from any XYZ college. You don't need to have some XYZ degree. What only it takes is that आपके पास वो skill set हो. You should have that skill set. What is the need of the hour? You need to learn few things. You need to be aware of few things. You should be practicing few things, which will make you capable of doing good job whenever you have been assigned some task. And that's where you have to focus on. It's not rocket science, but there is some series of steps which you have to do in a proper order to become a good full stack developer. So a simple straight answer, you don't have to worry about what your degree has. If you have a right frame of mind, if you're willing to put up some efforts to improve yourself and do something which is needed to become a full stack developer, that's only is needed to make it big. So Shravan is asking that which one is easy, front end or back end? आपने full stack तो पूछा नहीं है. For an MBA who has 2 years sales experience. So sir, I'll say that there's nothing called as a easy or a tough. The first thing, Shravan, I'll say that requires anyone to do good in this industry is the passion, the interest. If you feel that IT is something which excites me, you are willing to do something new. That's the first most thing. No. So first of all, you should have a natural inclination towards the technology. That's number one. And if that is there, I assume that since you are participating in this session, you definitely are thinking very strongly in moving to the IT sector. The second thing is that I believe both have the both requires a different frame of mind. If I talk about the front end, it's more of like little artistic, little bend of mind towards the design. If you're someone who would like to play with colors, design, fonts, who'd like to iterate doing the same thing unless until it becomes more visually appealing, right? I believe UI might give you a better satisfaction. On the other hand, if you're someone with more mathematical approach, you love playing with numbers, you're okay to sit on a computer black and white screen for hours, right, and solve some complex problems, right? Typically, backend might give you more satisfaction there. So I'll not say one is easy or tough. Both, I believe, will require you the equal efforts. But if you can try to align your thoughts, your interest with the stream that you're trying to prepare for, I think your journey will be much rewarding. So decide based on what your interests are, where you think that whether the front end aligns to you or a back end aligns to you. Or maybe, if you can feel that I can do both of them, I'll say the best would be the full stack, because that way you will have more opportunities in the market. Ritvik is saying that AI changes the boom of IT job. No, sir, I think this is a misinformation which is being scattered in the market. What is AI? What is machine learning? Sir, unless until there is a software, there is no use of AI or machine learning. There is Google first, right? Then the Google uses machine learning to understand, to predict what you are going to search next. There is Amazon first. आप पहले Amazon पे जाते हो. It's Amazon, and then only Amazon applies machine learning and artificial intelligence to predict what is the next item that you're going to buy. First comes the Netflix. Netflix चाहिए. अगर Netflix ही नहीं है तो what recommendation will you give? You will not give any recommendation, right? So for any of the machine learning or AI to work, there has to be first some application. There has to be there some software, and then you apply machine learning on the top of it. So the machine learning is not replacement of software development, sir. Machine learning is there to augment the software developers. So I don't see any fear. I don't see any reason. I don't see any time in the coming future that software developers' jobs will be replaced by AI or ML. I think that's very false thought process which I see is being circulated in the market. It's not going to happen for at least next 10, 20 years. Right? So these two things are not kind of replacement of each other, but they are complementary to each other. Right? So understand, with all thanks to COVID and all, if I try to move on, almost every company is trying to move to the internet, right? So the role of a software engineer is going to anyway multiply multiple times. AI and ML will also grow, but they're not going to replace, but they're going to complement, so that we are leveraging the machine learning potential to better products for the customer, right? So that's how it's going to help. It's not going to bring down the boom of development or something like that. Now, few of the people are pinging that can I learn full stack development in 6 months? So this is a very subjective question. I have seen people learning full stack in say like 2 months of time also. I have seen people doing it in a year, still not able to do it. So it all depends on the effort, no sir. How much effort are you ready to put up? What are the things that you're doing? Is your path clear? Are you aware of the things which is needed to become a full stack developer? Today, if you look over the internet, there's a plethora of market, right? Every bhaiya and didi of Amazon, as soon as they join, abhi 6 mahine bhi nahi hua, they start their YouTube channels, right? So there's a lot of distractions, sir. Everything which comes for free does not mean it is good quality. So you have to be careful. So I cannot give you a statement that yes, you can do in 6 months. It won't be the right statement. It depends on lot many factors. But if you see, I have taught at multiple organizations, multiple places. A ideal time which a person needs, let's say that you can work for every day 2 to 3 hours, right? An ideal time if someone is starting from the scratch to do good in a full stack program is close to around 6 to 9 months. So if you're able to give yourself 6 to 9 months, if you're willing to work every day at least for 2 to 3 hours, and you're sincere, right, you're focused towards a goal, I believe 6 to 9 months is a great amount of the good amount of time in which anyone, even starting from the scratch, can do wonders. Abhinash is asking that is it possible to become a full stack developer even if I've been working in the another domain? Yes, sir. This is what I've been telling you. It's definitely, but for that, it's just not that they will invite you and say that, okay, you come and become a full stack developer in my company. You have to prove that you know the skills. So you have to first prepare yourself. You have to be aware of the skill sets. अब वो क्या skill set है? What are those skill set? I'm going to talk about in the coming slide. So just hold on for then. I think most of you people who are asking that what should I know? How should I be aware of? Those all things I'm going to cover in the coming slide. To everyone who is asking this question, I'm from a different degree, I'm a different background, I'm a different stream. The answer to all of you is yes, sir. IT sector does bias based on which degree or branch you come from. But it might be little difficult for someone who is coming from the out. Say, for example, someone is coming from the BCom background. It might be little tough for you in the beginning, but it's not impossible. What it will take is that you just will have to work a little extra hard. You will have to pay some attention on the maths. You have to learn some programming from the scratch. But if you are ready to give that much of efforts, if you are able to stretch a little, if you're willing to say that कि मैं कुछ दिन तक कम सोऊंगा, trust me, if you sleep less you will not die, but definitely if you sleep less for the next 6 months, work hard, the rest of your life you can spend in luxury hotels, right? So yes, you can definitely do it, but provided you have that dedication, you have a proper path, you have a proper mentorship who can guide you do the right things, I think you can definitely do it. Suresh, I hope I have answered your question. Now let's try to move on. Now the most burning question, sir, as a full stack development role, what skills do I need to know? Okay. So the first thing which you need to know is the coding skill, sir. And when I talk about the coding skill, it's more about data management. Every company that you see these days, they're always saying, they're now saying data is the new oil. Everyone is talking about data driven decisions. हिंदी में कहते हैं आटा से सस्ता डाटा हो गया है, right? What it means, every company that you go and work for, whether it's a social media, whether it's a bank, whether it's a search engine, everyone is going to do the complex manipulation of data. Or with this, huge amount of data is getting generated in almost every company. And this huge amount of data, there are two problems which is happening, sir. Problem of storage and the problem of computation. Two kinds of problems are happening: problem of storage and problem of computation. So every company would love to hire someone who can solve this problem optimally. And how do we solve it? For that, you need to be aware of data structures and algorithm. So any company that you go and try these days, if it is a good company, if they are doing challenging work, if they are going to pay you big, expect at least 3 to 4 rounds with strong coding exercises, right? So if you're planning to make it big in the industry, if you're planning to crack the good companies in the list, first thing, sir, you'll have to do is that pick one programming language and practice data structures and algorithm well. Out of 10 points, how much points should I give to this? I'll say 100. Yes, 100 out of 10. This is how important coding skills, data structures, and algorithms are. Fair enough? Cool. So, sir, once you have understood data structures and algorithm, and this is the first thing you should do. Without this, you will not even clear the first few rounds. So, पहले तो sir यही करना है. You cannot expect that I get a good job in IT unless until you are good in data structures and algorithm. So, there is nothing that can replace this, right? That's number one. After you're done with this, sir, you should be aware of basic computer science skills, basic fundamentals. What is Mac? What is Windows? What is Linux? What is Android? What is an operating system? Basics around that. Basic about the networks. how the application talk, how internet works, how when you open www.facebook.com something opens up on the mobile phone, how the router works, what is internet, what is broadband. तो इस टाइप की बेसिक बेसिक चीजें you should be aware of. You should be internet aware. You should be knowing more than a normal person using Facebook and the LinkedIn, right? So you should be aware about the computer science fundamental. That's number two. And since you are a fresher, you might to need little less. When you grow more number of years of experience, let's say that you're already working for 5 years in IT and you're planning to make a change, then you are expected to know some more details. But let's say that you are a fresher or you're working in some another domain and you're trying to make a change, maybe there you might need not know in detail, but high level understanding of how internet works is very essential. So that's number two thing. Now, number three part, since we are targeting full stack, and full stack का मतलब क्या है? What is the meaning of full stack? You should be knowing front end, you should be knowing back end, you should be knowing data access layer. You should be aware of all the things. So that's why if you're planning to learn full stack, if you want to become a full stack developer, you should be knowing what a front end engineer needs to know. So you should have a good understanding of HTML, CSS, and lots of JavaScript. You should be aware of JavaScript fundamentals and some frameworks in JavaScript. Say, for example, React. React is very hot in the market. Most of the companies these days are using React framework for building their UI UX. So maybe a React could be a good choice, right? So making it big in the industry, like first thing that you have to do is that you have to learn the front end stack, which includes HTML, CSS, and lots of JavaScript. Post that in the back end, you can decide to pick anyone. I don't have any personal preference because it all depends on our requirements. But if you ask me that if you have to decide to choose one, I will say that choose something called as a language which is complete. Say, for example, Java. Java could is example, as a complete programming language. So if you have not yet decided, you can choose Java. But if you're already familiar with some other languages like JavaScript, Node.js, or Python, I'm fine with it, right? But pick one, learn their frameworks. For example, if it is Java, you should be aware of Spring framework. If it is Python, then maybe like Django. If it is, say, for example, Node, then maybe Express. So learn the language, their framework, and try to build few applications. And it applies to the front end also. So you should be aware of the applications in the front end and the back end both. So once you have understood data structures and algorithm, once you have understood the computer science fundamentals, once you have understood the front end, once you have understood the back end, the last but not the least, you should also have a good understanding of data storage layers. You should be aware of what is SQL databases. You should be aware of what is NoSQL databases. Detail में जाने की जरूरत नहीं है, but on a high level you should be aware of when to use RDBMS, when to use MySQL, when to use Oracle, when to use MongoDB, when to use Cassandra, right? So on a high level you should have a very good understanding of key where to use RDBMS and where to use NoSQL database. So these are the 5 things that we need to master in whatever time that we have. The day you are able to master all these 5 skills, you don't have to think about 100 things. Sir, I've seen people doing various blunders. Few of the people I see that when they start preparing, they start learning 5 different languages. January mein kuch, Feb mein kuch, March mein kuch, April mein dusra programming language. There is no advantage of learning 10 different programming language. You can just stick to one, just follow these 5 steps, complete these all 5 things, and then you will see that there are hundreds of opportunities available in the market. There is no lack of jobs, sir. There's a huge opportunity in the market right now. The only thing that it is needed is that you have all these skill sets. Am I clear, people? So, Jagrup Bedi, you are saying that you have a full stack development certification. That certification is good, but at the end of the day, nobody will just hire you in the namesake of the certification. Any company that you go and apply for, they will test you, they will interview for the good 4 or 5 rounds. So just certification will not be enough. Yes, certification is good. It's kind of a hallmark that you have done something. But at the end of a day, you will have to solve problems in the interview. You will have to, and number two, since you are in first year itself, no one will give you a job in the first year of engineering itself. So the better choice for you would be that you try for the internships in your summer breaks, right? In the summers when your college stops, you can try for the internship in few startups, good companies, and it's good that you're already having the completed certification in full stack. I hope that you have did it well and you have learned a lot of things. So you can try for the internship. Job you think about only when you are complete your engineering after 4 years. So Sub is saying that what is the best source for learning front end and the back end? So sir, I will say that there is no single source as such. If you look search for front end and the back end, there are hundreds, not hundred, I'll say thousands of the people. There's so many YouTube videos, there's so many articles, there's so many books, there are so many sources right now, right? So if you ask me, the best way to for and the best and the most authenticated way to learn something would be the standard documentation. Say for example, if you're trying to learn the front end, right? So for HTML, I think there is standard documentation of W3 schools or a standard HTML documentation itself. That's pretty much nice. For the JavaScript, there is a JavaScript documentation of MD, and I think that's the best, which are the authenticated source, right? Say for example, Node.js itself has some kind of tutorials which get you the best information. So when you try to learn something, you can always stick to the source. For example, Java, the Java documentations are the best source for it. But again, when you try to learn from that documentation, you will always find it little lengthy process. It will take you some more extra time to go and read everything because it is very detailed out. So for that, I'll say that you can try to do a little research and try to find out if you can afford, you can join some courses. Say, for example, Great Learning, for example, have great curated courses. They have kind of vetted course by all the, the industry experts. They have talked to the companies what they are asking, and based on that, they have a very vetted curriculum which brings all the content together, right? So in the case if you can afford to pay some money, you can join these kind of professional courses which will help you, which will simplify your process, your journey. So whatever thing that you will do in say like 10 days might be everything will be condensed and will be provided to you in just like 1 day of efforts, right? So my point to here is that you can definitely do. My suggestion would be that if you want to get the authentic sources, go for the standard documentation for each technology. I think they have everything that you need to become good. In the case if you want to cut short the time preparation and you don't want to get swayed up it, you want to stay motivated, I think you can join one of the paid courses. सर फैजान यू आर सेइंग पाइथन इज बेटर, रिएक्ट बेटर फॉर द बैकएंड. सर रिएक्ट बैकएंड के लिए है ही नहीं फैजान. ओके, रिएक्ट इज फॉर द, इट्स अ जावा स्क्रिप्ट फ्रेमवर्क फॉर द फ्रंट एंड. ठीक है, पाइथन इज बेसिकली अ स्क्रिप्टिंग लैंग्वेज वेयर यू यूज to build the backend. So Python is for the backend. React is not for backend at all. It's for the front end. I'll take few more questions. Which is more important for front end developer? So what I strongly believe, sir, both front end and the back end are the two sides of the coin, right? Just like a coin cannot just have the head or it just cannot have a tail. Any application will require to have a front end as well as a back end. So I see both of them are being equally valued these days. The salaries are equally fine. They're equal, equally you'll see the more number of opportunities. So I don't see any kind of bias between a front end or a back end. Rather, if given a choice, I would like you people to be aware of both, so that if there's a back end job, you can apply there. If it is a front end job, you can go and apply there, right? And if it is a full stack, definitely you are eligible for it. So I don't see much bias there. It again boils down to what your area of interest is. What is that excites you? If you're great in front end, you can earn in crores today. If you're good in back end, you are still earn in crores. So salary growth, career prospect, I don't believe it's dependent on either of these. I think you have a better opportunities in both the streams. Venkat, whatever, there are few sites which creates the automatic website. They are called as the I understood what you're trying to say, but they are only for the basic frameworks. They will never be able to replace the web developers, right? When you see a automation to create a websites, it's mostly for the static content. It's only for the content management. Mostly they are for the blog sites. But you have to create a complex applications like Facebook, LinkedIn, chat support karna hai, notification dalna hai, right? That is not possible that any of these automation can build it. At the end of the day, you'll need some software developers to scale it, to build it, to modify it, and that's where I don't see any challenge or any reason why software developers will not be employed in the coming many years. Cool, let's move on. So that's all I had to say. Now what I'll do is that next 2 3 more minutes that I have, uh, I'll try to take up the questions from the YouTube chat, and then I'll hand over to Santanu, who would like to walk you through few of the details about the great learning course. Now there's a question: data structures and algorithm in which language? Sir, any language is fine. If you're comfortable in Python, practice in Python. If you're comfortable in C++, C++ में कर लो, Java में कर लो. No preference. You should pick one language, do well in that, and then practice data structures and algorithm in that language only. Don't learn a different language for DS and algo. Whatever language that you have decided, do it, stick to it. If you ask me, I have yet not started which language to pick, I'll say Java. Why Java? Because most of the companies in the backend, they work in Java. Java is a complete language. You learn a lot of things when you learn Java. So I'll say that if you have not yet started, stick to it. Otherwise, if you're already doing with Python, stick to that. Already with C++, great. Already with Node.js, great. You don't have to switch to the Java just because I just told you, right? Only if you're starting fresh and you need my opinion, I'll say that stick to the Java in that case. WordPress is basically a kind of a content management tool. It helps you to create, say, like a blog post kind of blogs, kind of websites automatically. You don't have to write HTML, CSS. It's just like drag and drop, and it helps you create a beautiful websites. But it can only help you to create a small, simple, static website. It cannot help you to create something like Facebook. It cannot help you to create something like Gmail. I hope you understood the point. Raj Parif, I cannot say, I will not say that it's simple, it's easy, and everyone is waiting for you. But what I will say here is that it's not impossible, sir. It's definitely not impossible. So what it takes is that first of all, you will have to prepare yourself. What is the need of the industry? The requirements of the industries are very dynamic. So you have to be aware that 2022 में क्या पूछा जा रहा है, क्या expected है आपसे. So first of all, you will have to prepare yourself, right? And then you have to make yourself available. You have to let the people be aware of you. So for that, you need to do proper networking. You should be in good connections, so that if you need referrals, you can go and tell people, few people who can refer you. So work on the quality, sir. Work on your network skills little, connect to the right people. I think that's what is needed, right? So if you are able to do all these things, have little patience with yourself, go easy on yourself, take up some time, and I hope that is all needed for you to, enter into the field of IT. Or ek bar aap enter ho gaya, that's where the trouble is. After that, I think if you stay alert, if you keep learning, I think the growth is exponential, sir. Sir, you can learn 100 things, but it's not advisable. I'll not advise that you learn 100 things altogether. Right? If you try to think about directly jumping to the top floor, if you try to think about jumping directly to the top floor, right? It's not possible, right? अब सीधे यहाँ से 100 मंजिली इमारत पे directly you cannot jump. You'll have to first go to first floor, then second floor, then third floor, right? So first try to become a good software engineer. So become a software engineer. Once you're done with it, then the sky is the limit. You can think about machine learning. You can think about the data science. You can talk about the blockchain, anything that is, that is there. So Mukund, boot camp join करने के फायदे ये हैं that you will get to learn the, if you join a good boot camp which gives you a proper live coding experience. They teach you the concept, they give you the projects, and then they kind of help you into the job market. I think yes, definitely it helps you because it will cut short your whole journey. You will not do much mistakes. You will learn from the others advice, and will try, you'll try to get the things in the minimal time possible. So I hope it works, provided you have done due diligence in deciding which boot camp to join. Understood? So is competitive programming, is competitive programming necessary and should aim for the fang right from the beginning? Sir, I have seen a small misconception. I would like to conclude with this last answer. Competitive programming is not necessary for the jobs. Competitive programming and coding for the job is two different things. In a competitive programming, you always have the fixed set of the inputs. You have a clearly defined problem statements, fixed input, fixed output, and you can write at the comfort of your room. Whereas for coding for a job is slightly different. Most of the time, the problem statements will be open-ended. You will have to define what are the boundary cases. You will have to define the dry run. You will have to define how this problem has to be solved, right? So these are the two different situations, two different scenarios, and the strategies should be also slightly different. So with that, I'll stop here. I know there are many questions. You guys can always feel free to reach out to me over the LinkedIn. You can message me there. You can also reach out to the questions to the Great Learning folks, and we'll make sure that every one of you, any genuine question that you put into the comment section, you will be answered. So all to you, Santanu, now, and you can take it from here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Vishwa Mohan. I think this session was very, very insightful, and I'm very sure students must have liked it, and it had been very, very insightful for them as well. Now, as Vishwa Mohan correctly pointed out, that in these sessions, we are learning about full stack development today, right? So you must have seen that IT welcomes everybody. Now, IT is not going to say anybody to anybody just because you are from MCA or you are from BSc, you are from any background. If you want to switch to IT, the only one thing which is required is the skill set, the languages, the other skill set for front end, for back end, for database types, everything we talked about. Now, if you want to learn all these skills, you actually want formal education in this area. Very, you want to become industry ready and you want to learn these skills, you want to get career assistance and eventually want to get a job in this area. Well, Great Learning has got you covered. So we have a lot of programs. One of those programs is Advanced Certificate Program in Full Stack Software Development. So if you see the chat box, we have already shared the link for this particular program. If you go to that link, you will be able to see all the details for this particular program, for which you can even earn academic credentials from IIT Roorkee. So as a part of this full stack software development program, you will be learning software development and you can even specialize in cloud computing and data science. So if you want to understand more about this program, you want to understand what is the eligibility criteria, what kind of dedicated career assistance you will be getting, what kind of live sessions with the IIT Roorkee faculty you will be getting. If you want to get in-depth knowledge of all these things, all you need to do is you need to go to the link which is shared in the chat box for this particular program. You go there, you download the brochure by giving your details, and our program managers will reach out to you and will inform you about each and everything related to this particular program. So at the end of this session, I would just like to say that thank you to Vishwa Mohan, first of all, for having this great session and giving us all his time, wonderful session, and to all the learners as well, who were very, very interactive throughout. Now, if you are actually interested in this program, you have learned a lot already. Now it is time for you to actually get a structure in that domain. So for that, you need to go to the link which is shared, go there, download our brochure by giving your details, and reach out to our program managers and they'll help you out with that. So once again, thank you so much. So if you have anything to add, Vishnu Mohan, you can. Otherwise, we can wind up the session, I think.
So I think I'll just end up with a single note, sir. I believe all of you should think yourself as a brand. And the success of a brand lies in two things, sir. One is the quality, and the second one is that you should be in the eyes of your customer, right? So you can think yourself as a brand, and the customer is what the companies. So you should try to invest yourself so that your quality is good. You know all the skill that is needed to become a good engineer, good software developer, good full stack developer. But just working on the quality might not be enough. You might be great, but all the time you're sitting in your home. Nobody knows you in the market. Nobody is aware about you that you XYZ person is great in development. So make sure that you also spend some time on the networking, right? You connect to the right people. And maybe if you're not able to, maybe the courses like this helps you to network to all these companies to get more interview opportunities. So strike a right balance. Don't only work on the networking, and let's say that you're all the time on the LinkedIn connecting to 1,000 people, but when it comes about interview, you just fail, right? You just succumb. So make sure that you take a right difference, right balance between your quality of work that you're doing, the quality of learnings, and at the same time you're spending some amount of time to connect to the right people. you know if you try to strike these right two balances, I see no reason why, irrespective of which background that you come from, what degrees you have, what marks you have in 10th and 12th, I think there's no bias. If you do these things right, I think you have a bright future as a full stack developer. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, sir. We can wind up the session now. Thank you. Have a great weekend, everyone.